Hello, boys and girls. It is so bloody hot out there today. Whew. I mean, you may wonder why sometimes you see me with the wet hair. It's because sometimes it's so hot out there that by the time I get back inside, I am absolutely pitted out and miserable, and it's like I gotta shower because it's just too much. But, it is what it is, and plus, I leave my hair this way, and that way it more or less stays in place. But it's all worth it because we have two big boxes and a little package. Now, the two big boxes, one of which is from our dear friend Roy Dam from Las Vegas, Nevada, and the other one is from our dear friend JDC Outlet from Alberta. And we got one more from Hillsboro, Oregon, which is pretty cool. So, what do you suppose we have for us today? Well, we will find out, but first, let's take a sip from the drink of unboxing champions in a glass this time. Definitely needed after how hot it is out there. Because certain people in different parts of the world, it's like, it's not just the heat in the American Southeast. It's not just the heat, it's the humidity too. Because that just makes it so much worse. I don't know how people can stand it personally. It's not for me. I didn't choose to come here, and certainly don't want to stay here for the rest of my life because it's just too hot, and it's only going to get hotter thanks to, climate change and all that. Alright. So, once again, from Hillsboro, Oregon. What could it be? What could it be? Let's see. It's a cardboard, not even a full box, just like wrapping. Oh, yes, okay. So, this is a good find right here. So this, you may have seen a similar one put out by Lionsgate / Miramax, because they had the distribution rights for the Miramax, for most of the Miramax films prior to what I assume was the Harvey Weinstein fallout and the acquisition of their film library by Lantern Capital, and who knows what's going to happen from there. But this particular release was put out by Alliance in Canada, and it's this Best Picture collection with, The English Patient, Shakespeare in Love, Chicago, and The King's Speech. And the one that you may have seen in the United States had all of these plus No Country for Old Men, but I have that separately with that really, really cool slip that you may have seen in a previous video. And I'll just show it to you now because I'm just that generous. There it is. See, isn't that cool? You don't find that in the United States. But yeah, so this is a Best Picture collection here of 4 Best Picture winning films that Miramax put out. And obviously, you can see Miramax, Weinstein Company, Weinstein Company once you got to the King's Speech, and put out by Alliance in Canada on home media. But they're 4 really great films in their own ways. It's funny, like, people give Shakespeare in Love a lot of crap, and The English Patient, too. They give those a lot of retrospective hate, and I don't know why. They actually kind of do with Chicago as well, because they're like, I hate Watch Mojo, but if you remember their countdown of the, worst Best Picture winners, and they were like, one against whatever thing, which actually, now that I think about it, one that, instead of The King's Speech, they had Crash on the US one, which they also gave a lot of crap, even though that was also a good movie. Not as good as Brokeback Mountain, but it was still good in and of itself. But I thought Chicago was great. English Patient's really good. I really love Shakespeare in Love, and I liked it more than Saving Private Ryan personally. And King's Speech, actually, out of all of them, this is probably the one I liked the least, just because it was against The Social Network, which I thought was, it's still, to this day, the best film of the 21st century so far, in my opinion. But yeah, so very good set with an awesome slip box, beautiful photos there from the films. Glad to have them in the collection. And I do feel bad for Shakespeare in Love because of the crap that it gets because of how people love they love Saving Private Ryan, but also because, from what I understand, Harvey Weinstein was a particular bully when it came to his ferocious Oscar campaign to try and wring as many arms as possible to get it to Academy voters to vote for it, and that's not even taking into account all the other nefarious things he was up to. But yeah, I hate it when good films get tainted by things like that. But again, it wasn't the movie's fault. The movie didn't choose to have that associated with it. Now we got Roy Dam again from Las Vegas. And as you'll recall, which I have my handy-dandy nail clippers to help me here. If you'll recall, Roy Dam runs a group called Mod Media Group, and they put out a bunch of films that have either never seen a Blu-ray release at all, or at least not in the US or whatever, and so you can find all kinds of cool rarities and things, and so definitely a good person to hit up, and I'll leave a link to his Facebook page if you want to be in the loop on the cool things that he does. And I've got a lot of grocery bags here for packaging. Yeah, I mean, a similar entity, not a person, a similar entity that puts out things like this is StinkyTuna.com. And so we got a couple of different things here. One of which was a leftover from the last order, and I just didn't get it in the last order. But it is Teeth, which I mentioned before. And this is a film, it's on DVD, but the DVD is kind of pricey, and it's never been released on Blu-ray officially, and so I'm glad to have it. And this film is a horror film about vagina dentata, that's right. It's about a vagina that has teeth in it, and apparently it has quite the rich folkloric history to it at least in Japan, if not other parts of the world. And pretty wild, I have to say. And I'm eager to check it out because, I remembered thinking that the premise was pretty, bizarre, but again, it's like the real folkloric history to it is even more bizarre. So apparently it goes back to like a psychological fear of, emasculation on the part of men who would presumably, I'm sure, be telling the story. And, again, those kinds of fears are very common in history and in fiction and everything. And you gotta love the tagline, every rose has its thorns, plural, but it's like, makes you think of the Poison song, doesn't it? And then, so that was a carryover from the last order. Now we got the 4 that are brand new for this order. Gonna start off kind of gentle here, and then we'll work our way up from less crazy to more crazy, or most crazy. So we got the original theatrical cut of The Warriors. Now, as I understand it, the only version of the film that's available on Blu-ray is the director's cut version, which has a lot of, I guess kind of like the Star Wars special editions, how it has a lot of, elements that were never, not only not in the film, but they weren't even possible to be in the film, as far as, CGI comic panels and things, which, that might be an interesting version of the film to get at some point. But it was just like a standard Paramount release, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe, Scream Factory or the Criterion Collection or, Arrow or someone can maybe put out a nicer version of it. But even then, it's like this version of it is the original one that made it into the cult classic that it was. And so it's nice to have that version of it. And the poster is a million times better than the standard Paramount release. So, there's something to be said there. Can you dig it? Yes, I can. And speaking of Star Wars, I already have the original theatrical versions of the original trilogy, which, still are the best versions of the movies. They're not the most cohesive with the entirety of the saga as George Lucas and then eventually Disney as they've envisioned it. So I do have the special editions, which again, they have their strengths and their weaknesses, but on the whole, I like the original versions better because they're just more... They're more impressive because you see all the original effects in there, plus they're less padded, and they're a little bit more... They wrap up into a nice, neat little bow within their own context. You know, you don't have to really worry about the other movies when you watch them. But then the special editions are probably better to watch in context with all the other ones. And I just went ahead and unwrapped the rest of them. But yeah, speaking of Star Wars, bam! The Star Wars Holiday Special, that's right, the infamous holiday special that only aired once during the Christmas season on CBS in 1978, and it actually has the original cast: Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, James Earl Jones, Peter Mayhew, R2-D2. They didn't even credit Kenny Baker. Anthony Daniels. Like, it has everybody in here, and that's what's so crazy about it, is that, you know, it's got the whole cast, and, you know, it was never ever rebroadcast. It was never released in any kind of official home video capacity. George Lucas went out of his way to make sure no one saw it, and after it aired the first time, because he was so embarrassed by it, and he basically was saying if he could track down every copy of it, he'd destroy it. He hates it that much, which begs the question, why'd you even bother approving it or getting involved with it in the first place? Now, granted, to be fair, it really is that bad. It's horrible, but it's like, it's a piece of film history, and it's so awful that it becomes sort of a Christmas classic. You know, it's something that I kind of want to watch every year. And honestly, the most fun part of the whole thing is actually watching the old 1978 commercials, which I believe this release, I asked Roy Dam, I asked him if it came with the commercials, and he said it did. Because honestly, those are the best part, because you see like some of the original like commercials for the Star Wars action figures, like the original line from Kenner, and you see there's a surprising amount of commercials that are like, well, clothing commercials that say, you know, look for the Union label, because I guess that was a big thing back then. But yeah, it's a piece of history, that's for sure, and it you know, it's such a spectacular collection of awful that it's amazing. And you know, as part of if you're a Star Wars fan, you gotta have it. Now, something else that technically it has had an official release of some kind, but it was on VHS forever and ever ago, and not in very wide circulation. That being, you know, with that, but also then not released on DVD or Blu-ray or anything, but still circulated around, which is the Beatles' "Let It Be," and you know, it was the documentary film that was shot during the what was called the Get Back sessions, because that's what the album was supposed to be called, Get Back. And then eventually it got called Let It Be, and it was released after Abbey Road, which was the last album they all recorded together, which is, in terms of when it was made, is technically the last album, and it feels like the last album. The Let It Be is just kind of like extras that they managed to toss out there. But that being said, you know, it's still a classic album in and of itself, and this film was made in concurrence with the recording of the album, with the Get Back sessions, and it has never been released beyond that one VHS release, because the various members of the band, the living and the dead, both groups, none of them really wanted it to get out there at first, or in any kind of real way, because they were saying basically that there were still a lot of really open wounds from the breakup, because like this film really does expose a less happy side of their history, and even apparently, because I watched the Beatles anthology, which is a fantastic like 8-part documentary series, and it was all about it was all about the fact that, well, it was all their whole career, but it was, they had to kind of be a little nicer around certain tough subjects, and I guess that this documentary shows like a notable fight between Paul and George, and just certain aspects to where they were trying, like, they released Let It Be Naked, which was a a kind of simplified version of the album that was closer to what they initially had in mind before the tapes were given over to Phil Spector, who did his Wall of Sound thing with it. And some people like the stripped down versions, some people don't. I much prefer the stripped down versions of the tracks, especially The Long and Winding Road, which was more simple and not so big and grand. I think it fits the message of the song a lot more. And they were going to release a DVD of the film to go along with the new version of the album, but then eventually it was just like, it just didn't sit well with would have been Paul and Ringo at the time, because I think George had just died in 2001, and that was all coming out in 2003, but still, glad to finally have it, be able to finally see it, and this is the deluxe 35 millimeter widescreen stereo edition, and I have seen little bits and pieces from it, like the rooftop concert, that you see on the Beatles YouTube channel and things like that. And then the last of the Roy Dam selections is Alice in Wonderland, an X-rated musical comedy, which has Christine DeBelle in it. And this was one that I had heard about because of the Cinema Snob review of the film. And this is on DVD, but it's not on Blu-ray, and so I'm glad to have it on Blu-ray. And it's a full-blown musical, and it's a sex comedy, so yeah. Think about that. I just find it funny. Oh, and the side, it says "You Tuna." How cool is that? But yeah, I remembered thinking that the whole thing, like the whole premise of just a musical sex comedy in the 70s with Alice in Wonderland, is like, how can you not want to watch this? This is comedy gold right here, or at least fascination gold for sure. All right, and then last up, we've got our dear friend JDC Outlet from Alberta, Canada. Gotta take a big drink from the drink of Unboxing Champions to give me my strength back. And as usual, we got a whole bunch of random things from him. But also, this part is brand new. He actually was nice enough to send me a whole bunch of slipcovers without movies, because he had just a bunch of them laying around. And so that'll be really cool to see if I can match these up with some movies down the line. And I have not seen what these are, so you're going to find these out with me, and then we'll get into the movies. So, and they're all the Canadian ones. So we got Anchorman 2, which I saw Anchorman 1 when it first came out to what would have been pay-per-view of Time Warner Cable before they changed their name to Spectre to try to Spectrum, excuse me, should be Spectre because it's evil, but Spectrum. You can change your name, but I know what you are, Time Warner Cable, and you are the spawn of Satan. But yeah, I saw the first one when it first became available on that service, and that was back when I was like 11, 12, something like that. I really don't remember it very well, but I want to see that again and watch the second one, so I'll definitely keep that. And American Sniper, which I used to have, I want to get it back. Great slipcover for a very good movie. It's funny, this film was kind of a cultural lightning rod, and kind of a bit of a Rorschach test in the same way as like The Passion of the Christ was. And it's funny because people that loved or hated the movie, they loved or hated it for reasons that were completely different from me, because I thought it was a pretty good portrait of someone whose humanity just gets gradually chipped away at because of war and because of violence and because of just the fact that he is good at killing, and how much it erodes his humanity and does pretty deep damage to the person that he was. So that's different than what both pro and anti sides. That's different than what they were saying. And then we got the Bling Ring, which is a film that I have wanted to see for quite some time. I'm glad that I have the slip for that. I'll just have to look for the movie now. And then we got Clash of the Titans, the remake, which I have the original in the collection. Been meaning to see this. We got the Cowboys and Aliens slip, which is nice because I have the movie, and so with the custom cover, so I can just pop that right on. How about that? And we got Creed, which I do not have Creed, but I want to get the 4K of it, so I may end up selling this or trading it or who knows what, because I do want to get the 4K of that film. And I have not seen Creed 2 yet, which is bad, because I like the first one quite a lot. The Darkest Hour, which I have wanted to see also. Need to track that down. Draft Day, which I believe is an Ivan Reitman sports comedy, which I am not as well versed in sports films as I should be because I'm not as much of a sports fan, but, worth checking out, I suppose. Slipcover for Drive here, which I have the steelbook of it. I'll hold on to this just in case I should come across the movie in some other form and want to match it to it, or I don't know what, might sell it. I'll figure it out. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which I remember I tried to watch this and I didn't get very far in it because I remembered thinking it was kind of hammy, but I also, that was years ago, so might try again, but I'm glad to have the slip for it, at least. 2 copies of Fast and Furious 6, which I'll probably sell these or give these away or something, because the 4Ks are out for this, and also they come in like that big box set. And then Get Hard, which I have no real interest in seeing this movie, so Hangover, 2 copies of The Hangover Part 3, which I didn't really care for the first one, but I also haven't seen it in forever, so who knows. And then The Help, which it's funny because this was a big Oscar contender, but then it's gotten some retroactive, I don't know if hate's the right word, but like it's gotten some retroactive, like, this doesn't help the conversation of, racism or whatever comments, and I have not seen it myself, so I can't really comment on it, but I will hold on to it because I do want to see it. The Hunger Games Catching Fire, which I will probably sell or trade this because I know that the 4K is out, but still, great film. I did not see the very last one, Mockingjay Part 2. I saw Part 1, but yeah, I'll get the full set of that because I did like the movies overall. This is one that I'll probably get rid of, Jurassic World, because again, the 4K is out. Now this is a film that I did want to see. I remembered seeing the trailer for it, and I'm a big fan of Chloe Grace Moretz. It's If I Stay, and I think that it was wasn't it like her spirit's like caught between life and death, and I just remember the trailer. I was like, it looks kind of interesting. Kind of your cut above your usual like teen movie fare. Last Vegas, which there's a bit of a Vegas theme going on, but it seemed like something to see at least once. And this kind of a later period Kevin Kline work, which is nice. Probably get rid of this one because I already have The Martian, and I have it on 4K, and I have the Deadpool slip, so good. Moulin Rouge, which I need to get this again on Blu-ray. and good that this has the slip, because I think the last one that I had years and years ago did not have it. Very good film. It's kind of a grower, at least for me, because like when you first see it, it really comes off like mad, like a mad acid trip, and like, is everyone high while they're making this, because it's so frantic and so like in your face insane, and eventually it does slow down and it does get more dramatic, but it's one of those things that's kind of an acquired taste, because I got into the music before I ever saw the film, and then when I saw what went along with the music that I like so much, then I was like, this is batshit insane. But yeah, it is a grower, and I think it's worth the growing process. Um, a film that I want to get back in the collection, Only God Forgives. Glad that there's a slipcover for it. The one that I had, I don't think had one. Pitch Perfect 2, I'll probably get rid of this one also because it also has a 4K. Paper Towns, this is a film that I've also heard is pretty good, and I like Cara Delevingne. Is that? No, I thought that was Kristen Bell at first, but no, it's not on the back. But yeah, I've wanted to see this film for a while. Now this is one of my favorite, this is hands down my favorite Michael Bay movie, Pain and Gain. I do have this film already. I have the special edition with that steroid, not steroid, the protein powder cover. So I'll probably get rid of this too, but still, great film. Prometheus, and might keep this one, even though there is a 4K of it, but I don't think that 4K has a slip that it originally got shipped with, so I might just keep that on there for additional prestige. But I really like Prometheus. I don't really get the hate against it. I thought it was actually pretty thought-provoking, to be honest with you. Several cuts above your usual sci-fi fare, at least these days. The Proposal, which I've never seen, might be worth checking out. I don't know. Keep that. I'll definitely get rid of this one, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because I already have the 4K Best Buy exclusive steelbooks of the original, of the 5 films before the MCU Spider-Man collections, before that series got started, so yeah. But, everybody hates on this film and on the Amazing Spider-Man 1. There are certain things that they don't do right or don't do as well as the Sam Raimi ones or as the MCU ones, but honestly, this is my favorite movie costume, even more so than the MCU one. And I actually like Andrew Garfield the best out of all the Peter Parkers in live action. For the kind, like, well, it's tough to say just because like I like him as sort of someone who can play the different sides of Peter Parker, and I think just as an actor, as an all-around actor, he's the strongest. As far as like picking a particular type of like rooting a character in something definite, I think that Tobey Maguire got the kind of nerd who just doesn't fit in. He got that, and then Tom Holland has the like rookie who's way in over his head side of things. Those are all those are all part of Spider-Man at different points in his history, of Peter Parker anyway. Not talking about Miles Morales, but or any other Spider person, but yeah, for Peter Parker, those are definitely very specific eras of his character. I think Andrew Garfield, maybe part of why people didn't gravitate to him as much is because he was playing a lot of different aspects of Peter Parker, like the person who's going through a lot of change, who can be emotional, he can be charming, he can be funny, he can be full of pathos, all these different things. I think that makes him a more all-around, fleshed out version of who the character is, and not just one thing, which is not to say that the other ones didn't have other aspects to them, but yeah, anyway, that could be its whole other conversation. I am definitely gonna ditch these for obvious reasons. And probably keep this one unbroken. Been meaning to see that. It was a film that Angelina Jolie directed. So yeah, got a decent spread there, so thank you to JDC Outlet for that very generous smattering of slipcovers. And let's get on with the actual things that I ordered. And as per usual, we have a good spread of different kinds of films and different genres. First up, we got 3 Days of the Condor, which is a good 70s spy thriller with Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway. And I have not seen this in forever, but I remembered it being quite good. Saw it when I was a kid. And then we got, this is something I've wanted in the collection for quite a while, is 127 Hours, which I've not seen, but it was a Danny Boyle film, and I like Danny Boyle quite a lot. And I wanted it in the collection for quite some time because I can now, if I can manage it, there we go, put on my Deadpool slip on there, woo! And so now I only have to worry about the City Slickers one, and then I'll be able to have all my Deadpool slips on the shelf. Now, we mentioned Do the Right Thing in a video recently. This might actually have been the very first Spike Lee film I ever saw before I even knew who he was, and that's Inside Man. And not a lot of people remember this as being a Spike Lee film, but yes, it is. And it's a really darn good one. It's a good heist film, good script, good, neat opening and ending credits music, and I love Clive Owen, love Jodie Foster, love Denzel Washington, some of my favorite, and Christopher Plummer. You know, all of them are fantastic. Really good twists and turns in this thing, good dialogue, good storytelling device, device and structure. And Willem Dafoe's in there too, I just remembered. So, yeah, definitely watch it if you haven't seen it. It's one of those movies in his filmography that kind of flies under the radar for some reason, and it deserves a lot more than that, I think. And then this was a film that I had in the collection before, but the packaging for it did not come with a slipcover, and it just was one of those like $5, back when Target did their $5 section, which the Target that was nearest to me for years, they completely ravaged their movie section. I was so pissed about that, but it was Automata with Antonio Banderas, and I remembered seeing the trailer for this film, and I thought it looked pretty neat. You gotta like those, more underground sci-fi or action films, because they can usually do things that are a little bit more ambitious than what other people can do. Then we got one of, if not the last film that had Heath Ledger in it. It was released posthumously, and it's got many different forms of the same character. This is partially how they got around the fact that he, died and he couldn't finish the rest of his scenes, but you got Heath Ledger, Christopher Plummer, Johnny Depp, Jude Law, Colin Farrell, and they're all, different forms of Dr. Parnassus here, and it's the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, and this is a later period Terry Gilliam film, and he is largely just kind of not doing a whole lot with movies anymore, and just kind of trying to generate as much controversy as he can, I guess, with being anti-PC or just trying to I don't know what he's doing, but great filmmaking talent. And this was a film that I remembered hearing that it was quite original relative to other fantasy films, and something I always wanted to see because I thought it looked kind of cool. And then a Martin Scorsese film that got a lot of Oscar nominations, but people don't really talk about it much anymore, but it really is a great film, is The Aviator, with Leonardo DiCaprio as Howard Hughes. And it's a great film. Definitely, if you haven't ever seen it or haven't seen it in a while, watch it again. Like, I think you'll be impressed with just how good it really is, because every time I've ever seen it, I've been continually impressed with just how good it is, even more so than I remembered it being. And then we've got a film that I don't know what you can really say about it. It's the good, the bad, and the weird, with an awesome gatefold slipcover there. and it's a Asian Western, I guess. I think this was another one where I saw the trailer, or I saw the picture, or heard of the title, and I was like, well, I gotta see that. And I mean, it's called The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, and it's like, well, I mean, it doesn't matter, I'm there, that's a great title, and it's Kim Ji-woon is the person who did it. And then we got a film that I remembered from the theater, and remember those. And it's a really, really great film from 2014. I don't think it got as much love as it should have. Well, it did by the critics, but I mean by the public. It's not really talked about as much. Is the Imitation Game. I thought this was a really, really good film about. It was about Alan Turing, and it was with Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley back when he was first kind of getting onto Americans' radar thanks to Sherlock and that sort of thing. And I think he does an amazing job of playing Alan Turing, and I like the relationship that he and Keira Knightley's character that they have, because they're both kind of fish out of water. They're both in places where they don't feel like they belong, and even though he's gay and she's just not really interested in anything other than her work, they do kind of have an emotional intimacy of sorts, which I think I thought that's a pretty neat thing to show that you don't have to have like romantic or sexual intimacy in order to feel connected to someone. But yeah, great story about someone who we wouldn't have won the Allies wouldn't have won World War II without his help, and he met a really tragic fate because of homophobia in Britain. And this is one that I always wanted to see because I'm really fascinated with first person in films, which the easiest way to make that happen is through found footage, obviously. But this film, Hardcore Henry, this was one that I've wanted to see for so long, and it's basically, I guess, that he's like a cyborg or something, and the film's told in his first-person perspective, and I thought, hey, that's a really cool idea, I've wanted to see more films like that take a lot of chances with how you tell a story, and I'm a little surprised that first person isn't really done on film as much as I think it should be, especially given how popular first person shooter games are. I mean, it's in the name. Excuse me. Now we've got a film that I believe is in the American Film Institute's top 10 in terms of film comedies. It's a great film. Is MASH, and this film, actually, a lot of people who only know the show, this film came before the show. Now, the show obviously has its own devoted fan base, but it wouldn't have been possible without the movie first, which has its own dedicated fan base. And I'm actually kind of surprised that the Criterion Collection has never put this out, because it seems like it would be perfect for them. But anyway, yeah, it was a very important comedy for its time, because even though it was about the Korean War, it really was making a big commentary on the Vietnam War. And it's a film that doesn't really have much of a plot, but it's kind of a series of vignettes, and but the vignettes themselves are really funny, and it was the first film ever, I believe, the first film, certainly the most well-known one, to say fuck, and so that was kind of a big deal. But and I love the poster too. But it's one of those posters that you see it and you don't forget it. And then we've got a film by Roman Polanski, the Ever Fugitive from Justice, The Ghost Rider, and with Pierce Brosnan and Ewan McGregor. And I heard good things about this film, and I mean, that just goes to show that if someone is accused of, or in this case did heinous things or whatever, that like it or not, they can still be capable of film work or whatever kind of artistic output that is important, or influences people, or who knows what. It's just it's a contradiction that everybody has to wrestle with at some point, and it's something that you know it continues to endure across the board, because it's like, what Harvey Weinstein did was abominable, but like he had his hands on like every great film, so many of the great films of like the 90s and 2000s, and it's like, well, you have to just, it's a part of history, I guess, the good and the bad. And yeah, it's still not fun though to have those great films tainted in some way. And last but not least, Blue Valentine with the slipcover, which I didn't even know that this edition, well, because again, in the United States it didn't have a slipcover, but it looks really cool. And this is a film that, it's a great film, very good romantic drama, very kind of heartbreaking. It's a film that, and Chris Stuckman said this, and I believe it to be true, that this is not at all a date movie, because if you see this movie with your date, you will break up. And I believe that to be true. Now, I saw this with my first girlfriend, and we didn't break up because of it, but we did break up relatively soon after having watched it together. And it's I do think this is cursed in its own way, but still, it's a very, very, very good film. But still, watch it at your own risk if you're in a relationship, because you will break up, I promise you. So yeah, we got quite the smorgasbord there, as we tend to do, but that's how we like it around here. So if you like this, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, set phasers to stun, warp factor 5. I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much to JDC Outlet and to Roy Dam. I will put links in the description. And yeah, so just continue to stay safe, stay cool out there if you're in a part of the world that's blazingly hot like I am, and enjoy your drink of Unboxing Champions.